as I come up here and all of a sudden everybody's ready to go. That's really good. Well, welcome to everybody. This is the official start of Partners Outdoors 2012. We're so delighted to have both faces that I've known for years and new, fresh ideas and faces with us. We're so delighted to have you all here and to show you how delighted we are to have you here. Wasn't it nice of Kings Mill to have weather like this for us here? Yay! Why bother going to Florida or somewhere else if we can go to Williamsburg and have delightful weather like this? And the only problem is that here we are forcing you to be indoors when our whole mission is to get people outdoors. A little bit of of a problem there, but anyway, a couple things. You might have heard some of the music going, and you'll hear more about this, but there are a couple of musicians, the Danzigs, that are now trying to put in musical form the fun of visiting various national parks, national forests, other public lands. And so remember Kevin and Frida Danzig. Hopefully you'll be hearing them, and we'll have their music playing periodically through the course of today. Need to do this. In fact, it's kind of ironic. Over the course of the last week, I've had the chance to talk to two of the people who are involved in the initial Partners Outdoors. And for some of you who know the saga, I'll ask for your forgiveness as I make sure everybody else understands that this meeting owes its start to a gathering out at Mount Rushmore. In 1990, Mount Rushmore celebrated its 50th anniversary, and then President George H.W. Bush and the leaders of the Park Service, Forest Service, Corps, BLM, and others, as well as some recreation industry leaders, were out there. And we talked about what a great opportunity it represented to look at places like Mount Rushmore and to think about new partnerships, to share these wonderful, treasured, iconic parts of the great outdoors with all Americans and to work in partnership. And after the glitz was done and the president flew off in Air Force One, we had dinner that night and we talked about how we all shared that goal, but how difficult it was when we came from institutions that didn't use the same yardsticks to measure how we acted, what our goals were. And as we started talking about the challenges of marrying together agencies like the Park Service and the Forest Service and the Corps and the other federal agencies represented here, and state agencies and companies like Snowbird and Coleman and Disney, we discovered that our lexicons were different, that our training was different, our skill sets were different. And at that time, at Mount Rushmore, Dick Nunes, then the chairman of Walt Disney Attractions, working with Jim Ridenauer and Dale Robertson, said, let's do something about that. Let's make sure that we convene a group of some of our best and brightest to come together and talk about our shared interests, our shared customers, our shared goals. And from that became the first Partners Outdoors held at the Walt Disney World in Florida. In fact, we met there for 7 straight years. And we learned to talk among ourselves and to share the proud traditions that we have and to focus on the changes that were occurring in terms of use of the great outdoors, in terms of changes in the American public, in terms of how we could and we should work to provide that seamless opportunity for the American public to enjoy their great outdoors, meaning getting there, staying there, having interpretation and other outdoor activities there, and having food and other kinds of things. We understood how important it was for us to work together in a comprehensive, strategic fashion. We're here because that meeting continues year after year to deliver results. It delivered, wow, wonderful outdoor world. And I was talking to both Kim Murphy, the Senior Vice President of Disney during the time that Partners Outdoors was put together, and along with Denise Meredith and the Deputy Director of BLM, the originators of WOW, which brought camping to 7 major U.S. cities where we had kids camp in the great outdoors starting in 1995, right in the heart of their cities. It brought us to discuss such things as the Feed Demo program and scenic byways and so much more. So there's been a tradition recommendations that have been converted into action that have shaped the outdoor experiences of millions of Americans. And that's what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen, because today, and for the next couple of days, we are going to be challenged to think as large, as creatively, and as practically as your counterparts have over the course of the last 2 decades. We're going to have fun doing that, and I'm very excited. The second person I talked to this week was Jim Ridenauer, the former director of the Park Service, and he laughed and laughed when I told him that this group was still meeting and still hammering out the differences in the terminology and the skill sets and the other kinds of things that go on between the public and the private sector, but he was thrilled to hear the traditions continue, and wishes you all well. A couple of announcements. Partners Outdoors works because we're all here sharing and caring about the same kinds of things, and that we all agree to a policy of non-attribution except for released information. I ask your help. If I say something that is really embarrassing to me, be my best friend and promise not to report that to the New York Times. And I, in turn, will make the same promise to you. We're here as allies to share thoughts, to be open with each other, and we will do that by continuing a policy of allowing people to say what they think and not making them liable for the consequences of reporting that in ways that might be offensive or hurtful or destructive of careers, and also to make sure that we have a chance for people to come back the next day and say, well, I didn't quite mean what I said. So if you would just honor that policy of non-attribution. We're here to be a corpus, to work together. We come with different views, and that's our strength. Hopefully when we go out of here, we will have some of our own personal views shaped a little bit by the thinking and the ideas that are exchanged here, and we'll be able to enter into the process of grappling with some really serious problems. Problems including a failure to maintain the market share of time, leisure time in the American great outdoors. As most of you know, the visitation levels to the overall systems of federal lands have plateaued for more than 2 decades. Despite a population growth of 30%, we're seeing actually fewer people that are spending time in the great outdoors. And we have some reasons, and I hope you will work and share your reasons for believing we can reverse that. I tell you, I am more excited today than I've been for years about the opportunities to do that. When the Electronic Software Association comes to meetings with us saying we want to help you get kids in the great outdoors, mea culpa, we are part of the problem. We help create a sedentary generation of kids sitting watching screens, and now we think we can make money with those kids using mobile devices, smartphones in the great outdoors, and we'd rather do that. I say, come on aboard. We can work with people who now want to be our allies in helping to use technology to support a connection to the great outdoors. So anyway, I think it's a great opportunity for us to think and to think broadly and to think creatively and to even say some things that you know, may be embarrassing were it to be brought up out of context in a week or 2 weeks or a month or a year. So let's just practice that. My other responsibility is to tell you that for years and years and years, we would send you home with a very large binder filled with all kinds of useful information. Fortunately, technology is our friend, because this little 2 gig hard drive or flash drive has content in it that I think you will truly find useful, whether it's links, whether it's actual copies of studies. This is a device, this is a set of knowledge that we hope you will use as you go back. And for those of you with the Corps of Engineers who can't use flash drives, we have this all on a DVD to make your IT guys happy. but I would say that this is useful. There's also storage room on here. There are a number of presentations that will be delivered here today, and we will work with you to try to upload either here or after you get back home so you can add to the what's there. My next major responsibility is to tell you that this meeting doesn't happen by accident. It takes a lot of thinking, a lot of preparation, a lot of working to assemble speakers and participants, to select the site and do more. And in addition to munching on bagels at least once a month, this group invests lots of time and energy. We call it the Partners Outdoors Steering Committee. And I would ask that the members of the steering committee rise from your seats and receive the applause of all of us for everything that you've done. So rise up, steering committee. And for some people, like Heather, this means arising. We're an 8 o'clock a.m. bunch on the East Coast, and Heather out there in Portland, that's 5 a.m. So it's real commitment. We have a hard time squishing that bagel through the line, though. We haven't figured that link out yet, but we do appreciate the commitment on the part of this group to meet to help us think through this. And tonight is also a showcase of what the Partners Outdoors Steering Committee also does, because it's not just this meeting. The Partners Outdoors Steering Committee is also the basic coordinating group for Great Outdoors Month, which is June, proclaimed by every governor, by the president, and with an active participation by a broad range of organizations, from the American Hiking Society to the marina industry to National Wildlife Federation. And tonight you'll see the proclamations from June of 2011. You'll see information about some of the events that took place during June 2011, including National Get Outdoors Day, and we'll have some fun doing all that. And my last point is to say that probably my favorite presentation at Partners Outdoors was given by a guy named Tom Tate. Tom was then the executive director of the Nevada Commission on Tourism. And he was talking to us during a time of change, not good change, of economic uncertainties, of real problems. And the title of his presentation was Thrive, Survive, or Be Roadkill. And his basic message was that we are able to make some decisions and take some actions that are likely to affect whether the next 10 years of our lives are marked by a survival, trying to make sure that flatline budgets or other kinds of things don't define the consequences of our energies invested on a daily basis, or worse yet, we're roadkill. Some of you have probably heard me talk about a wonderful American institution called the Post Office. The Post Office has a legacy that goes back to Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin, as part of his fingerprint on America, said, part of the democracy that I see is an ability to communicate, and we want every American to be able to put a stamp that costs the same amount and to communicate from Massachusetts colony out to the wild lands of our new western expansion. And in fact, the lore of the Post Office, being part of that connector of Americans, is pretty rich. The Pony Express, all those kinds of wonderful things. Yet today, 61% of the American public says, sell it. Sell the post office. They see the post office as deliverers of junk mail, and we see a post office that at least in part says our economic survival is going to be based upon selling the sides of our mail trucks so we can get some advertising revenue and slowing down the pace of first-class delivery. Now, this is the same institution that in 1987 was invited to do what Google now does and have everybody have an electronic address. So instead of Gmail, you would have had a USPS email address. And they said, no, that competes with first-class mail. Well, they're right about one thing. It does compete. Now, why do I say that? The post office was for years and years and years a revered American institution. The Great Outdoors is today a revered American institution. We need to make sure that our collective work ensures that we don't get bypassed by the realities of technology. by new ability for Americans to use their leisure time